My sister betrayed me for her best friend, accused me of getting her pregnant and abandoning her on social media. But when her ex-boyfriend showed up with devastating evidence exposing her plan to trap a rich man, my family disowned her, and she was left destroyed. Now, she's begging for forgiveness, but refuses to admit the truth. I'm 27 years old, work in corporate finance, and I swear to God if someone had told me 6 months ago that my own sister was going to believe her best friend over me about something this serious, I would have laughed in their face. But well, here we are. And I need to tell this story because my blood still boils every time I think about what happened, and how my sister, Emily, basically chose a manipulative liar over her own brother. I guess I should start from the beginning, or like, how our family was before all this exploded. I grew up in a pretty normal home. You know, middle class, traditional but good parents, the kind that work hard and expect their kids to do the same. Emily is 5 years younger than me. She's 22 now and in college. Well, was. I'll get to that. We always got along well. Like we were close but not super tight, you know what I mean? Like normal siblings who mess with each other but at the end of the day support each other. Or at least that's what I thought. Emily started college like 3 years ago. She met Chelsea, her roommate. And I don't know what it was about Chelsea, but from the moment I met her, something gave me a bad feeling. She had that vibe of a girl who's always calculating something, always smiling but with cold eyes. You know what I'm talking about? But Emily adored her, said she was her best friend, that she was super fun, that she supported her in everything. I just nodded because, honestly, it wasn't my problem who my sister hung out with in college. The times I saw Chelsea were few, like at Thanksgiving or when I visited Emily on campus. She was always nice to me, maybe too nice now that I think about it, but at the time, I didn't give it any thought. I was focused on my career, working like 60 hours a week, saving to buy an apartment, basically living that young professional life trying to get established. I didn't have time or energy for college drama or my sister's friends. Everything was relatively quiet until, one day, like 6 months ago, I wake up and I literally have 50 messages on my phone. And when I say 50, I'm not exaggerating, like my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. I open Instagram and the first thing I see is that Chelsea had tagged me in a post. My stomach dropped to the floor when I read what it said. I swear I had to read it 3 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Chelsea had posted a photo of a positive pregnancy test and had written a whole paragraph saying she was 6 weeks pregnant, that I was the father, that we'd had an affair, and that I was refusing to accept my responsibility. She said she was disappointed in me, that she had trusted me, that she never thought I would be the type of man who abandons a pregnant woman. The post already had like 200 comments, people I didn't know calling me everything. My own friends sending me messages asking what the hell was going on. And the worst part, the absolute worst of everything, was that Emily had commented on the post supporting Chelsea. My own sister wrote something like, "I can't believe my own brother did this. Chelsea deserves better. I'll be here for you always." I just sat there in my bed, staring at the phone screen, feeling like the world was falling apart around me. Really? My sister was publicly accusing me without even asking me first? I immediately called Emily. It rang like 5 times before she answered, and when she did, her voice was full of rage. She started yelling at me before I could say anything, saying I was a disgusting person. How dare I do that to her best friend, that I needed to take responsibility for my actions. I tried to explain to her that never, and when I say never, I mean never, had I touched Chelsea, that I hadn't even seen her alone ever, that this was completely false. But Emily wouldn't let me talk, she just kept yelling. Finally, I told her, "Look, Emily, breathe and listen to me. I have never been with Chelsea, not even once. This is a complete lie, and I have no idea why she's doing this." And you know what my sister, my own blood sister, told me? She told me to stop lying, that Chelsea had no reason to make something like this up, that it was obvious I was trying to escape my responsibilities because I'd always been a selfish person who only thought about his career. That hurt more than anything Chelsea could have said, because it came from Emily. I asked her why the hell she would believe Chelsea over me, and she said because Chelsea was her best friend, because she knew her better than me lately. Because I was always working and never had time for family anyway. And that was like a punch in the stomach because, yes, it's true I'd been busy, But I never thought Emily felt like I'd abandoned her or something. Then she threatened me, said that either I helped Chelsea financially with the pregnancy or she was going to tell our parents everything and make sure the whole family knew what kind of person I was. She hung up before I could respond, and I just stood there, literally shaking with fury and confusion. I didn't understand anything. Like, why would Chelsea do this? What did she gain from falsely accusing me? I didn't even know her well. We'd talked maybe 10 times total in those 3 years. It didn't make sense. I spent the whole day trying to process what to do. I removed the tag from the post, but the damage was already done. My friends kept sending me messages, some supporting me, others clearly doubting me. It was horrible, feeling publicly accused of something I never did, and having my own sister believe that garbage without even giving me the benefit of the doubt. And then, like the next day, I got a message from an unknown number. The message said, "Hi, Benjamin. I'm Matthew, Chelsea's ex-boyfriend. I need to talk to you urgently about what she posted." My first instinct was to ignore it because I thought maybe it was some friend of Chelsea's trying to get more information or something, but something made me respond. I asked him who he really was and how he'd gotten my number. Matthew explained that he'd been in a relationship with Chelsea for 6 years, that they'd broken up like 2 months ago, and that she'd been calling him constantly trying to get back together with him. He told me that when he saw the Instagram post, he immediately knew it was a lie, because Chelsea had confessed her plan to him a few weeks before they broke up. Apparently, Chelsea was obsessed with getting married young, like she had this idea that she needed to be married before 25 or her life would be a failure. Matthew didn't want to get married yet because he was finishing his master's degree and wanted to establish himself in his career first. According to Matthew, Chelsea had told him that if he didn't marry her soon, she was going to find someone who would, and that she had a plan to get pregnant and trap someone with money. Matthew thought it was a bad joke at the time and didn't give it any importance, but when he saw my name on Instagram and found out I worked in finance, it all made sense. He told me Chelsea had been with several guys during the last weeks of their relationship, that she'd cheated on him multiple times, and that the baby was probably from one of those guys. He sent me screenshots of conversations he'd had with Chelsea, where she basically admitted she was seeing other men, that she wanted to get pregnant to secure her future, that she was tired of being poor and depending on her parents. It was sickening, honestly, reading those conversations and seeing how calculating this woman was. Matthew also told me that Chelsea's parents were super conservative and religious, that if they found out their daughter was pregnant out of wedlock, they would disown her or something. At that moment, I knew exactly what to do. If Chelsea wanted to play dirty, I could play dirtier. The first thing I did was contact Chelsea's parents directly. It wasn't hard to find them on Facebook. Like Chelsea, had photos with them tagged. I sent them a long message explaining the whole situation, told them their daughter had falsely accused me of getting her pregnant, that I had never had any kind of relationship with her, and that I had proof she'd been with multiple men and was trying to trap me in a lie. I sent them the screenshots Matthew had given me, explained everything about Chelsea's plan to get pregnant to get money, and told them that if they didn't handle this appropriately, I would take legal action for defamation and harassment. I didn't care if it sounded harsh or not, honestly, because this girl had tried to ruin my life and my reputation, and I wasn't going to sit back and do nothing. Chelsea's parents responded in less than an hour. They were furious, absolutely furious. They told me they were going to talk to their daughter immediately, and that they apologized deeply for what had happened. The next day, I found out from Matthew that Chelsea's parents had given her an ultimatum. Either she left college and came back home with them where they could supervise her, or she lost all their financial support. Chelsea apparently had a total breakdown, cried, begged, but her parents didn't budge. They told her she was a disgrace to the family and that she needed to focus on fixing the mess she'd created. Chelsea ended up deleting the Instagram post and posted a kind of ambiguous apology, saying she'd made a mistake and regretted any misunderstanding. She didn't mention me by name, but it was enough for some of my friends to stop judging me. I thought that would be the end of the drama, that I could finally move on with my life, but oh no, my sister had other plans. Emily called me like 2 days after Chelsea deleted everything, and I expected it to be to apologize, to say she'd been wrong to believe Chelsea over me. But no, instead she verbally attacked me for ruining her best friend's life. She yelled at me, that because of me, Chelsea had to leave college, that her parents had forced her to come back home, that she was suffering so much, and that it was all my fault for being so cruel and vindictive. I couldn't believe it. I literally couldn't process what I was hearing. I told her, Emily, are you listening to yourself? Chelsea falsely accused me of getting her pregnant, tried to ruin my life, defamed me publicly, and now you're mad at me for defending myself. And, you know what? She told me I'd gone too far by contacting Chelsea's parents, that I should have handled things more privately, that I had no right to get involved in Chelsea's family affairs. I yelled back at her. Something I'd never done before with Emily. I told her she was a hypocrite, that she had publicly supported Chelsea's lies without even asking for my version, that she had chosen a manipulative liar over her own brother. I told her I was sick of her attitude, and that if she couldn't see how toxic Chelsea was, and how wrong she'd been, then we had a serious problem. Emily started crying and told me I would never understand because I'd never had a friendship like the one she had with Chelsea. That I'd always been alone, focused on my career and my money. That hurt because there was some truth to it. I had been very focused on work, but that didn't justify what had happened. I told her she needed to choose. Either she was on my side acknowledging that Chelsea had lied and hurt me, or she was on Chelsea's side, and in that case, we had nothing more to talk about. I thought that after that conversation, Emily would reflect and realize how absurd she was being, but it didn't happen. Instead, my parents called me a week later, asking what the hell was going on. Emily had apparently told them a completely distorted version of events, saying I had ruined her best friend's life over some minor conflict, that Chelsea was devastated, and it was all my fault. I sat down with my parents and told them absolutely everything, from the beginning. I showed them the original Instagram post, the screenshots of conversations with Matthew, the messages with Chelsea's parents, everything. My parents stayed quiet for a good while after I finished talking, and then my father said he couldn't believe Emily had believed something like this without even talking to me first. My parents are traditional but fair, and I think I expected them to support me, but I didn't know to what extent. My mother said they were going to talk to Emily seriously, and that this couldn't stay like this. My father was visibly angry, like his face was red, and I could see he was trying to control himself from exploding. They told me not to worry, that they were going to handle the situation with Emily. A couple days later, my parents called Emily to have a phone conversation because she was on campus, although, well, Chelsea wasn't there anymore because her parents had pulled her out. My parents put it on speakerphone because they wanted me to hear the conversation too. Though Emily didn't know I was there, my mother started very calmly explaining that they had talked to me and knew the whole story, and that they were very disappointed that Emily hadn't trusted her own brother. Emily immediately got defensive and started with the same speech as always, that Chelsea was her best friend, that I had been cruel, that this was more complicated than it seemed. My father interrupted her and told her very seriously that she had two options. Either she apologized to me and cut all contact with Chelsea, acknowledging she'd been wrong, or my parents would stop paying for her college and expenses, and she would have to figure things out on her own. Emily was quiet for a moment, and then started yelling, saying they couldn't be serious, that it was unfair to force her to choose between her brother and her best friend. My mother told her it wasn't a matter of choosing between friends, but of recognizing the truth and having loyalty to her family. Emily then changed tactics and started crying, saying Chelsea was the victim in all this, that she'd lost everything because of the accusations, that her parents were horrible to her. My father asked her directly, Emily, do you believe your brother is capable of doing something like this, getting his sister's friend pregnant and then denying everything? Emily was quiet again and finally said she didn't know what to believe, that everything was very confusing. My father told her that wasn't an acceptable answer, that either she believed in her brother who'd never given her reasons to doubt him, or she believed in a girl who had clearly lied and manipulated the situation. The conversation went on for like another half hour, with Emily trying to defend Chelsea, saying maybe she'd exaggerated things but wasn't a bad person, that she was just scared about the pregnancy. My parents didn't budge an inch and repeated the ultimatum. Emily had a week to decide. Either she apologized to me, sincerely, and cut contact with Chelsea, or she lost my parents' financial support. Emily hung up the phone without giving a clear answer, and honestly I thought she would reconsider. Like, our parents were paying for her entire college plus her apartment, her expenses, everything. She had no way to support herself. She didn't work because my parents told her to focus on studying. But the week passed and Emily didn't say anything, didn't call me, didn't send any messages. When the deadline came, my parents called her again, and Emily told them she wasn't going to apologize to me because she didn't feel she'd done anything wrong, that Chelsea was her friend, and she was going to support her no matter what. She also told them she felt my parents had always favored me, that they'd always been prouder of me because I made money and had a good career, and that this just proved they'd never valued her the same way. My parents tried to reason with her, explained that this had nothing to do with favoritism, that it was about honesty and family loyalty, but Emily didn't want to listen. She said she was going to find a way to finish college without their help, and that when she graduated and was successful, they were going to regret treating her this way. My parents kept their word and cut her financial support completely, took her off the family health insurance, told her she'd have to return the car they'd bought her. Emily showed up at my parents' house like 2 weeks later. On a Saturday afternoon, I was there because I was going to have dinner with them, and when I saw my sister arrive, I didn't know what to expect. She was crying. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked exhausted. She asked my parents to talk alone, but my father said no, that if she had something to say, she could say it in front of me too. Emily started begging, saying she'd made a mistake, that she hadn't thought they would actually cut her support, that she was desperate because she had no way to pay for college. My mother asked her if she was coming to apologize to me, and Emily looked at the floor and mumbled something about being sorry for everything that had happened. But when I asked her directly if she acknowledged that Chelsea had lied and that I'd never done anything wrong, Emily started stuttering and said things weren't so black and white. I told her, yes, they were. That it was very simple. Either Chelsea had lied or I was a liar who'd gotten her friend pregnant and denied everything. There was no middle ground. Emily started crying harder and said Chelsea was going through a very difficult time, that her parents had practically imprisoned her at home, that she'd lost all her friendships, and that she just wanted to be there to support her. I asked her if she was still in contact with Chelsea, and Emily admitted yes, that they talked every day. My parents told her to leave, that until she was willing to do what they'd asked, there was nothing more to talk about. Emily begged them to reconsider, said she had nowhere to go, that she couldn't pay her apartment rent. My father told her she should have thought about that before choosing to defend a liar over her own family. Emily looked directly at me and told me I was a monster, that I'd destroyed Chelsea's life just out of pride, that someday I would realize the damage I'd caused. I stayed quiet because there was nothing I could say that would change her mind. Emily left, slamming the door, and that was the last time I saw her in person. My parents were devastated. My mother cried all that night, saying she couldn't believe her daughter had chosen this path. My father was quieter, but I know he was suffering too, like you could see it on his face. The following weeks were weird. I found out from a cousin that Emily had gotten student loans to finish the semester, that some of her friends were helping her financially, and that she'd gotten a part-time job at a coffee shop near campus. Part of me felt sorry for her because I know it's not easy to work and study at the same time, but another part of me was still furious about everything that had happened. Like 2 months after all the drama, I got an email from Emily. It was long, like one of those emails that clearly takes hours to write because they're super thought out. It started saying she was sorry about how things had turned out, that she never wanted us to get to this point. She said she'd had a lot of time to think, and that she recognized maybe she'd been too impulsive in supporting Chelsea publicly, without talking to me first. But then, in the next paragraph, she started justifying her actions again. She said, Chelsea had been going through a very difficult time emotionally, that her parents were abusive and controlling, that I didn't understand what it was like to have your parents reject you. She said yes. Maybe Chelsea had exaggerated or misinterpreted what happened between us, but she didn't think it had been with bad intentions, that she was probably confused and scared. And that part made me angry because she was basically saying Chelsea maybe didn't lie, but was just confused about who had gotten her pregnant. It was ridiculous, like you can't be confused about who you've had sex with or not. I kept reading, and Emily said she hoped someday we could be a family again, that she missed me, that she wanted things to go back to how they were before. But never in the whole email did she say the words I needed to hear. She never said, I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I publicly supported Chelsea without hearing your side. I acknowledge Chelsea lied and you're innocent. It was like a half apology. Like one of those apologies people give when they want you to forgive them but don't want to admit they were completely wrong. I didn't respond to that email. To this day, it's been like 4 months since all this. I haven't spoken to Emily. My parents haven't given in either. They remain firm in their position that until Emily fully acknowledges what happened and cuts contact with Chelsea, there will be no reconciliation. I know my mother sometimes cries at night thinking about Emily. I hear her when I go visit them. But I also know my parents feel they're doing the right thing. For my part, I've tried to move on with my life. Work keeps me busy, which is good, because it doesn't give me much time to think about this whole mess. Some friends ask me about Emily from time to time, and I just say we're going through a complicated family situation. I don't go into details because, frankly, it's exhausting, explaining this whole story over and over again. The last time I heard anything about Chelsea was like a month ago, when Matthew sent me a message telling me she'd had the baby, that it was a boy, and that apparently the father was some random guy she'd been seeing. Chelsea didn't get married. Her parents are still super strict with her, but at least they let her live at home while she takes care of the baby. Matthew told me. Chelsea tried to contact him several times after the baby was born, trying to get back together with him, but he blocked her everywhere. Sometimes I think about Emily and wonder if she'll ever realize how wrong she was. I wonder if when she's older and has more life experience, she'll look back and regret having chosen to defend someone who clearly manipulated her and lied. But honestly, I don't know if I care anymore. What happened showed me a side of my sister I didn't know, a side that's willing to believe a virtual stranger over her own family. The relationship with my parents is fine, maybe even closer than before because we went through this together. They support me completely and have never doubted my version of events, which means a lot to me. But I know it hurts them not to have contact with Emily. I know they miss their daughter even if they're disappointed in her decisions. And me, well, I'm still processing everything. I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely fine, because I'm not. Losing my sister, even though technically it was her choice to pull away, hurts more than I expected. But at the same time, I can't just forgive and forget when she's never really apologized or acknowledged the harm she caused. I guess only time will tell if we can ever fix this relationship or if this is permanent. For now, I'm focusing on the people who were there for me when things got tough and trying not to get too bitter about everything I lost along the way.